All right, welcome back to First Team Fantasy. To kick off the Sunday afternoon games, we had the Patriots traveling to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders, and they lost. It was a 21-17 win for the Raiders. On the Patriots side of the ball, everyone was kind of curious with Malik Cunningham being brought up to the active roster and actually kind of thrown into the number 2 role, how he'd be integrated in, or if Mac Jones struggled heavily, would he be benched? He was not benched in this game. I mean, from a Mac Jones standpoint, he had an alright game, I guess. He was 24 of 33 for 200 yards, didn't throw a touchdown, threw an interception, 6.9 fantasy points. I mean, he's obviously not a guy we're looking at fantasy wise, and I mean, at this point, there's not too many Patriots as a whole. We did say if, Mondre was going to have a good week, it would be this week, and he, fantasy wise, did have a very solid week. I mean, he only had 10 carries for 46 yards, scored a touchdown, 5 catches for 24 yards on 6 targets, 18 points. I mean, it was a good
This is
week.
what we were looking for. I mean, it's like, thank you. The 6 targets, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why it took 6 weeks to get back to this, but they finally did. And oh, lo and behold, they almost won a football game. They
Yeah.
scored a touchdown.
Yeah. And Stevenson, he left with a head/ankle injury. He did return to the game, so he should be okay there. There's no real worry there, but is worth noting. Both their touchdowns came on the ground. The other one came to Zeke, who had 7 carries for 34 yards and the touchdown. Caught one pass on one target for 15 yards, 11.9 fantasy points. It's
He would have had another house call if it wasn't for that holding, but I don't know if he would have made it to the end zone if it weren't for that holding. So
Yeah. I mean, they had solid weeks. Again, the Raiders' rush defense, we've seen them, give good games to guys like A.J. Dillon. So
Namondre and Zeke.
yeah, it's a little bit of hope for Mondre. Honestly, I would use it as if someone is high on Mondre and thinks he can turn it around, I would honestly use this opportunity to flip him. I don't think he's going to have too many weeks like he has against the Raiders, but even then it doesn't make sense that they ran the ball over 4 yards a carry and only ran it 17 times between those two running backs and passed it 33 times with Mac Jones. It just
Especially given the game was so close the whole time and they were actually having succeed. I don't know.
yeah, but I mean that's been the story
Is
for
this
the
just
Patriots.
an elite tank job from Bill Belichick or
Yeah. The receivers, I mean, receivers and tight ends had fairly irrelevant games except for one guy. I mean, Devonta Parker, Tyquan Thornton, Gesicki, Henry, all just not good games by any means. The one bright spot was Kendrick Bourne, who had 10 catches for 89 yards on 11 targets, 19.3 fantasy points. That's a really good week. Um, it's just Again, it's just tough. I don't trust any of the Patriots receivers or tight ends, Hunter Henry at this point, week in, week out. It's hard to have faith in them when their offense, I mean, even, they scored 17 points. They'd scored 3 points combined the previous 2 weeks. I mean, 20 points total in 3 weeks is
That's
tough,
ugly.
and 14 of those points came on the ground. So it's just it's just scary to see.
I mean, their next game is against Buffalo, so I would not. You're not going to be able to start Mondre next week, that's for sure. But after
Mhm.
that, they have Miami, who we saw Chuba Hubbard have success against, Washington, who's not been very good on defense at all, and Indianapolis, who, we've seen Travis Etienne have 2 20-plus point weeks against. So in the next 4 weeks, he has 3 decent enough matchups where it's like he can still maintain relevance. Next week is going to be hard against the Bills, but that's what we're looking at right now.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll see going forward. I mean, on the Raiders side of the ball, Jimmy G left the game with that back injury. Um, there ran follow-up tests. McDaniels had said, that he dodged a bullet, so it's not a serious injury. Will he play week 7? We don't know. But when he came out, I was actually upset at first and then pleasant to see Brian Hoyer was capable. I mean, he had the deep bomb. And I mean, it's the same story. The Raiders are an obvious guys that you're starting every week. Even if Jimmy's in, you're not starting him. If Brian Hoyer's in, it brings a little more doubt to the pass catchers. But again, it'll be against the Bears, who will probably be missing Justin Fields. So even if Jimmy G does miss a week, you'd still be, confident in Jacoby Myers, Devontae Adams through the air. Jacoby Myers, again, had a solid game. 5 catches, 61 yards, 7 targets with a touchdown, 17.1 fantasy points. He is as consistent as they come for a wide receiver, too. He's consistently putting up double digit week after double digit week. He's getting 7+ targets a game. I mean, he's been not more reliable than Devontae, but when defenses lock in on Devontae, how the Patriots did this week, that's when you still see, Jacoby getting volume. Devontae had a quiet week, 2 catches, 29 yards, 5 targets, 4.9 fantasy points. It's nothing to be alarmed about. Devontae Adams has played the Patriots 4 times. Um, very early in his career where he wasn't the wide receiver one yet, and he had 6 catches for 121. But as a wide receiver one playing the Patriots, he's had 6 catches for 40 yards, and then twice on the Raiders, 4 catches, 28 yards, 2 catches, 29. Belichick game plans around getting the number one guy out of the game, and I mean, he does a good job at it. It's one of those things you see Devontae, have a very off week. The Raiders still get the win. Jacoby kind of gets looks. We see Michael Mayer get integrated. I'm not worried long term on Devontae. It's just how the Patriots have played him through his career.
I mean, I'm not exactly worried about Devontae, but at the same time, it's in the past 2 weeks he has under double-digit points, and also in those past 2 weeks he has 4 and 5 targets.
Mm-hmm.
I, you, yeah, the thing about the Patriots that is true, but against the Packers,
Yeah.
I don't it doesn't make sense at this point. I'm almost more confident with Jimmy G not playing for Devontae Adams because Jimmy just seems to hyper target Jacoby Myers for some odd reason when you have the, if not the best, one of the best wide receivers in the game out there. I don't know. I don't get it at this point. I'd seriously, I know as a Raider fan, you wouldn't like to see it, but I'd like to see Devontae go somewhere else at this point because it's like, what are we doing here? 9 targets in the last 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
That should not, you should, I don't, yes, the Raiders won both games by the skin of their nuts, but the little bit goes wrong and you lose both of those games and you look back and Devontae has 4 and 5 targets. What is McDaniels doing? I don't know. I really don't know. He's an awful coach. After the O'Connell game, he basically blamed everything on O'Connell,
Mm-hmm.
which is horrible coaching. You're the one who started the rookie, decided to start the rookie. You put the ball in his hands on the goal line rather than running it with Josh Jacobs. He's incompetent. He's a coward. I hate McDaniels. But the fact of the matter is, like, Devontae's targets, the first 4 weeks, 9, 8, 20, 13.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's going on. Obviously, where you drafted him and based on his talent alone, you're starting him every week. But
Yeah.
it is concerning to see.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I mean, with those targets not going to Devontae, we finally saw them go to the rookie that they spent the high draft capital on. Michael Mayer kind of broke out this game a little bit. He had 6 targets, caught 5 of them for 75 yards, 12.5 fantasy points, played 81% of snaps. That's kind of what we were expecting, is him to at least be involved in the offense. And by no means am I picking up Michael Mayer yet, but if production like that can continue through the next couple weeks, he becomes a guy that we at least take a look at on the waiver wire. Just something to monitor. And then to round it out, Josh Jacobs had kind of a quiet week. I mean, he was inefficient on the ground. He got crazy high volume, but 25 carries for 77 yards. You're looking at like 3 yards a carry. Not efficient. He had 2 catches for 16 yards on 5 targets, 11.3 fantasy points. Where you drafted him, you're drafting him, very end of second, third round, 11.3. I mean, it was just an ugly one. The Raiders' offense hasn't scored as much as we thought they would on a per game basis coming into this season. So when the touchdowns are down, you're looking at the fantasy points dropping a little bit. And I mean, we've kind of seen it other than, I guess, Jacoby Myers on a consistent basis. But again, going in to a game against Chicago next week, and if Jimmy G does miss, you assume Josh Jacobs is going to get high volume again, and he should have a bit more success running against the Bears compared to the Patriots.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah, I don't have too many positive things to say about this Raiders offense based on what they could be compared to what they are. I mean, similar to the Ravens, but the Ravens do not have Devontae Adams or Josh Jacobs. So it's a lot of times watching them, I'm just left scratching my head, wondering what the hell they're even doing out there with all that talent and not using it. So hopefully things turn around. If it does, I do agree it will be this week against Chicago, even if
Jimmy misses.
even if Hoyer gets the start, it doesn't look like Justin Fields is going to be playing either, as we've seen when backup quarterbacks are thrust into that position, especially, the Raiders defense has been a lot better than recent years. And they will give him a tough time, especially Max Crosby. It's going to be an ugly one for the Bears offense. So I do think the Raiders are going to be on the field on offense a lot. I think they will have a lot of opportunities. Hopefully, it's a bounce back week for both Jacobs and Adams.
Yeah. And that's all we got for this game. As always, you have any comments, questions, advice, anything like that, feel free to drop it in the comments. And that's all we got for this one. Until next time.
Yes, sir.